Welcome back to the Strength and Speed podcast. I'm your host, Conquer the Gauntlet Pro and Strength and Speed owner, Evan Preparis. And I have Brenna back with me for, what is this, like the third episode in a row?
No, wait, this might be 4. Oh, maybe it's 3. I don't know. 3, I guess.
We're also recording them and releasing them out of order, so this might be the 3rd or 4th episode in a row recorded. Or
let's just say more than the past few months.
It's almost like you're the regular co-host again. It's weird.
I know. It's like, that's how we started this thing.
All right. Before we get to today's guest, let's do a quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Harbinger Fitness. If you've ever gone to a gym and used a dip belt or some of their pulley attachments or seen someone in the gym wearing gloves, they are probably Harbinger. They have a pretty extensive fitness line, and if you go shopping in pretty much any fitness or strength training store, Dick's Sporting Goods, Walmart, etc., and go pick up some gym accessories, Harbinger is literally all over the place. Personally, I have one of their weight belts with green, which has a Velcro on the back, so I have some patches on the back there, like the CTG Pro Team and the Strength and Speed patch. And then the other big thing I have from them is a weight vest. So it's a 20-pound weight vest, and you can adjust the weight. So I typically start at the beginning of the season like 10 pounds, then kind of add weight throughout the year to work on my obstacle progressive nature. Brenna, what are your thoughts on Harbinger?
Oh, man, right there with you. I have quite a bit of things from them because I've picked up some from the store, like you said, randomly. I have like an ab roller from Harbinger. I have a home pull-up bar system that works as a push-up bar and dip bar. And then, like you, I have the weight vest, which I use all the time. It's amazing. Gloves. They have like bar fat grips that are great for grip training, and you can use them in so many different ways, whether you put it on a dumbbell or say if you're doing like a squat with wide grip, gets you prepared for monkey bars that are fatter bars. It's amazing for different things. And then just general strength training. It's always available in perfect tools. So check them out if you haven't. And then once you look at them, you'll be like, holy crap, I've been using that all the time. And you'll love it.
And speaking of strength training, we're going to introduce our guest. I'm going to read through her bio, and then we'll start talking to her. So we have Heather Cox on the podcast today. She did not play sports in high school, signed up for her first road race, a 10K at 18, but didn't really get into sports until later in life, around age 33, playing roller derby. Then started doing Tough Mudders after that, and kind of fell headfirst into the obstacle course racing scene. Got her first Spartan Trifecta in 2012, was a regular at a bunch of Battle Frog races, a regular at Shell Hill. I always go there for their 24-hour event. And then after OCR, so around 2016, 2017, switched into competitive bodybuilding, which is the physique category in bodybuilding, a subcategory, and had pretty awesome placements. Let's see, first place at our first show, 4 to 17 in women's physique division, participated in nationals, ranked 6th, 7th, and 9th, participated in 4 shows after that, and then switched from NPC, which is the National Physique Council, to OCB. I'm not sure that one's, what is it, Heather?
It's an organization of competing bodies.
There you go. Which is the all-natural tested federation. Won her pro card in June and won her first pro show in July, which is pretty awesome. So she still does some OCR on the side, but is heavily focused on physique bodybuilding now. So Heather, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Cool. I'm really excited about this topic. It's a topic I've kind of touched on before. We touched on a little bit with Jamie Stiles on the podcast, who competed in figure. But I had not realized before reading your bio, when we asked you to be on the show, I didn't realize you had actually won your pro card, which is super awesome. So big congratulations there.
Thank you.
And on top of that, if people kind of recognize the name, you used to go by Heather Moss, so people may know you by that name from a little earlier in your OCR days.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump into it. Brenna, what do you got? You can go first here.
Yeah, well, I'm just really excited about this because I've seen, it seems like more and more just from getting into the fitness community, I've seen more about bodybuilding and this whole industry, but I knew nothing about it. So I'm excited because, Heather, I've known you from OCR and mainly Battle Frog. I think that's where we met, probably hanging out at a rig or something.
More than one, yes.
And for those, let me paint the picture if you're just listening to this. Heather, you're known for, it's Wonder Woman, right? That's kind of like your theme and your attire that you wear throughout your bodybuilding and OCR, right?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I love it. And so my first question, you basically said you didn't have a background in sports, roller derby. How did that, if you don't have a background in sports, you're just like, I'm going to go do roller derby? Because that's kind of random.
No, let me preface it. I wasn't into sports, but I've always been into working out. So when I was lazy in high school, but once I hit college, I took my first weight training class and was hooked on fitness. And so I had been working out mainly at home doing like Beachbody, and there was a restaurant in Pottstown I frequented, and the owner's wife actually was starting up a roller derby club in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. And I would go in once a week to have dinner there, and every time I went in, she would bug me. She was like, you have to come out, you have to try out. And I finally was like, fine. I went and bought a set of skates, and I showed up, and I made 50 friends on the first night. Because that's how many women that were on the team or were trying out. So it was the first time I'd ever done a team sport, something where, you're with 50 other women, and, that could go one of two ways. And the women were just phenomenal. I played for a year, and I ducked out shortly after having 2 shoulder injuries. Believe it or not, neither of them were directly related with derby. It had more to do with arm wrestling after derby practice.
Whoa, all right. That brings up a whole bunch of other questions.
So, yeah, I had fun for a year, and I got out before I really hurt myself. And then switched over to something safer.
Now I'm curious about arm wrestling. So was this just people messing around after roller derby practice, or were you actually competing in like arm wrestling competitions?
No, post-practice plus beer
Gotcha.
equals not smart decisions. so I tried with my right arm, had to take a rest for 6 weeks on my right arm, and then it's like, well, the right arm's not working, let's try the left arm. That didn't work either.
Well, that's how you'll learn to stop. You ran out of arms. So.
Exactly.
Well, did you have any roller derby related injuries?
I did not, actually. It was funny. It was shortly before the end of my derby career, and I fell at practice, and everyone just stopped because one thing I was very good at was staying on my feet, and it was the first time they'd seen me fall. And it was like this really big thing, and I'm like, everyone falls every time. They're like, but you didn't. I'm like, well, now I did. Get over it. So, yeah, but no, I didn't actually had 0 injuries from derby, which was nice. I was very blessed, and I counted my chickens and walked away. So I went to a safer sport like OCR.
Yeah. Makes total sense.
Yeah, so how did that transition occur?
Well, it was actually, ironically enough, there were some women on the roller derby team who had done Tough Mudders in previous years, or the previous year with their spouses, and they, opened it up to the group, and I was like, sure, I'll go. And then, one by one, they started backing out, and there were 2 other girls left, and I said, you're not backing out, you're not allowed. So I went and picked them up and put them in the car, and we went. And I also told them that they weren't allowed to walk during the race. I said, if we're doing this, we're going to run the whole damn thing. So it was in April 2012. I think it was like 42 degrees that day. And we finished the entire course. And I was good up until I had to fully submerge. And then the shake started. And we ended up at the end of the Tough Mudder. Somebody else had to undress me and put warm clothes on me because I couldn't stop shaking. And believe it or not, even after all that, I was hooked. And then somebody said, I wasn't racing unless I did a Spartan race. So I signed up for my first Spartan race, which was Palmerton. And that was the only Spartan race I ran as open, and then switched over to the competitive waves for the Jersey Mount Vernon race, and then I did Killington that year too.
There's some South Spartan events or locations to do for sure.
Yeah, they was quite interesting. Like, I had never even run off road prior to doing that first Tough Mudder, so it was definitely a switch for me. But I fell in love with it, and I have races on my calendar for this year, so I'm super excited.
Now, one of the other things I left out of the bio was you ended up getting ranked 7th nationally in their point series. So that was when Battle Frog had basically the full series throughout the year. So obviously you did well there. So what is it that kind of drew you into that series? And tell us a little bit more about your OCR accomplishments.
Well, with Battle Frog, we were invited to the inaugural race in 2014 in Georgia. So, drove all the way down and, just fell in love with the obstacles. My biggest, what I like best about Battle Frog was that the competitive way was mandatory obstacle completion. In my mind, it's an obstacle course race, so you should be able to do the obstacles if you're going to be racing competitively. So that's what hooked me in to Battle Frog specifically. I got away from the Spartan race. I don't think we should be doing burpees. I think we should be doing the obstacles. That's just my own personal opinion. So
you're in good company here.
So, I would, get done work on a Friday, drive all night, get out of the car, get on the line, race, get back in the car and go home. That was life for a good 2 years. And I loved it. So, but what I didn't include in my bio was in 2013, Beachbody had they had a bodybuilding type competition in Las Vegas to promote their Body Beast program, and I decided to do it, and I ranked top 10. But it turned out it was more of a marketing ploy than a true competition like NPC or OCB, and it left a slightly sour taste in my mouth in 2013, and it took till 2016, 17 for me to decide, you know what, I'm going to try that again. And so I decided to take a little bit of time off from racing. Well, I actually tried to do both, and I learned very quickly that the body doesn't react well to trying to do both at the same time.
No, it doesn't.
So I learned that the hard way. The week before my first competition, I actually ran a half marathon, and every step was agony. But I finished it because I had signed up for it. So, and I got my medal.
Nice.
That's important stuff right there.
Yeah. Well, most of us will do anything for a medal. I have my first and probably last road marathon scheduled for March. I'm going to Little Rock, Arkansas. And I'm going there because they offer the biggest medal that I've found in the U.S.
Oh, yeah, theirs is huge. It's like preposterous.
Yep.
It's like a dinner plate.
Yep, it's bigger than your head. So I will be doing that, and I can check that off my bucket list.
Nice. Well, before we switch into kind of the more of the bodybuilding aspect, you have, I think, did you say in your bio, I remember reading that Savage did podium for Masters you run Savage races a couple times, right?
I have, and it was before my last show. It was the Maryland race. I placed second Masters.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah, it was a really good course, and the Twirlybird got me last year, and I'm like, I'm not letting go. And then it was funny because I came up to that particular obstacle, and there were two men who started to go across, and they both fell in the water, and there was a female volunteer, and she looked me in the eye and she goes, "Show them how it's done." And I'm like, okay, no pressure, because I hadn't completed that particular obstacle, but I held on, went through, and finished, kept my band. So,
but if I'm not mistaken, we have not seen you at Conquer the Gauntlet yet, have we?
You have not, and it's one of those on my list, but I haven't yet. So,
no bias or anything here. Just saying, you might love it.
It's not that I didn't want to, and I had actually looked at dates and places, and you guys don't come north, do you?
So, Des Moines, Iowa is the most north we go.
Okay.
Central. It's very, very Midwest based. Dallas is a good one because it's just like a good flight hub to get into.
And I've never been to Dallas.
Oh,
when is that? When is it?
Is that June? That's June, right, Evan?
I think that's June 1st.
June 1st.
I think.
I don't have anything on my calendar yet for June 1st.
Ooh, I think you should do it. We'll all be there. Well, I don't know about Evan. I'll be there.
I should.
And that'll be a good month after my my next show, because I'm doing the marathon in March, then switching gears for 8 weeks, prepping for a show May 4th. So I'll be off prep for that. So that would probably be perfect.
All right, y'all, you hear it. We're going to get her to CTG, her first one, Dallas 2019. Take it.
Hey, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to put it on my calendar, come hell or high water, I'll be there.
Exactly. And that's what Evan, I don't know if you remember, she's camped out. So she'll be like, if she doesn't get it on her first try, she'll camp until she gets that band. I feel it.
Yep. I got I stood in the stubborn line twice when I was being created. So I got double the dosage of stubborn.
There you go. Well, let's switch into what you're pretty much, I'd say, more passionate in your activity that you're taking seriously. I want to know how you decided to why you decided to do this, or the people I've talked to or have seen that do different categories of bodybuilding all have various reasons, whether it be they commit and they just, are going to try to do it and see if they can. Some have more of a deeper meaning back behind it. So, what's your why?
Well, the reason why I did my first show, I'd been in the gym, I'd lifted, and I had a certain level of muscle mass. But the reason I chose to do it was to address my fear of getting up in front of people. I hate getting up in front of people. I freeze, break out in hives. I had to take a class in college. I had to get up, and all I had to do was read a paper, and I lost my voice before I was finished. So it was a way for me to, what better way to address being in front of people than to stand in front of judges and almost nothing. So if I could do that, getting up in front of people fully clothed should be pretty easy. So
one way to look at it, I guess.
So I prepared. I went through my first prep almost 100% on my own. I had hired a posing coach close to the show itself, because that's the one thing I did not have any clue about was posing. And he actually, I had actually lost a little too much weight. I was stage ready a good 6 weeks before I should have been, because I had not educated myself completely. And he took me under his wing on a pro bono basis and kind of helped me dial in. And I got up on stage, and, I was nervous, but, got through it and took first place on that first show, which was very encouraging. And then, went on to nationals, and I was a little disappointed with nationals, but as you guys, I know Evan probably is aware, NPC is not tested. So I was up against some big guns. And I was told that even ranking top 10 nationally was an accomplishment. So so the why was originally for the addressing the fear, and then it just felt like second nature after that. I felt like I was home, if you will. And I started a group on Facebook called Prep Squad. It was 5 of us, 5 girls. We all knew each other. And it's a closed group, inviting, we would word of mouth, invite other women to come in for motivation, just venting, talking about, what you're doing for prep, and, being able to talk to people who understand you, because let's face it, most people don't understand, when women go into their prep mode or whatever, and, you need someone who you can connect to. So we are now 942 women strong.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
And, it's a phenomenal group. I do not allow any negativity, because I do administer the group. It's a positive place where you can feel comfortable sharing anything. I go to other women's shows. other women have now started going to each other's shows. I had most recently gone to New York. One of the girls realized she was going to be at the show by herself. And I'm like, what's a date? I got in the car, drove 5 hours, spent the day with her. I do also bake, which is completely opposite of the whole healthy bodybuilding thing. So I made her
off season. You got to bulk up. We'll count it.
See, I'll get on my own soapbox about bulking.
The clean bulk.
Yes, thank you.
That's the appropriate way to do it. The inappropriate or lazy way is dirty bulk, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, no. And then you end up gaining excess fat that you have to lose anyway.
Right.
But yeah, so anyway, the preface of the group was to be motivate others, inspire others, keep people on track, and just have a safe place where women can become a community. So it's really expanded, and I'm really excited about it.
That's awesome. Congrats on that. At the end, we'll have to make sure to share that so others can join if they're looking. But for the novice that has no idea about this, I've always wondered. So you hit 2 points that I wanted to know about posing in general. But first, when it comes to prep, you said you kind of did it on your own at first, and then a coach helped. But I mean, did you just start Googling and getting books of previous other bodybuilders and strengths that you knew? And how do you make a prep plan? I mean, what goes into that? What's kind of a short story of how that works?
Well, I mean, for myself, because I am self-trained. Anyone that you talk to in the sport, even other coaches, typically recommend to have a coach. Even if you have someone who coaches other people, because normally you need someone to keep you on track.
Right.
It's not easy
with almost all athletes, basically, right? I think it goes to say that you might be a personal trainer yourself, but you need someone to kind of do it for you too to help keep you motivated.
Correct. And so I'm kind of an anomaly that way. My stubborn nature keeps me from maybe doing it in the most traditional fashion. Now, when you're starting to go into prep, you have obviously you're going to start putting yourself in a calorie deficit, and you have your macros, which are your protein, your fats, and your carbohydrates. And there's lots of different schools of thought on how one should cut their calories. Some people do keto, which I don't personally agree with. I know that it works in the short term, but then you end up having to come off of it, and so many people aren't educated well enough to come off that keto properly, so they end up gaining the weight back. So I've stuck with a 40-30-30 percentage split. So my protein's at 40%, and both my fat and my carbs are at 30%. So when I want to start prep and I want to cut down for stage, all I do is reduce my total calories, but keep those percentages the same, and it's worked beautifully. And I don't have crashes, and I don't feel cranky. And I don't have that high and low when people play with their carbs. So. But if it worked for you because you got first in your first one, right? Yes. So and
just out of curiosity, so how many what's your body weight for show, and then how many grams of carbs are you eating? I know that you told me the percentages already, but what does that actually come out to?
I was sitting at 123 pounds when I hit stage this last time, and I was eating the last week. I was eating between 1,500 and 1,600 calories a day. So, whatever 30% of 1,500?
Oh, geez, we're gonna do math on the spot. I'll edit this part out.
500.
Yeah.
It would be 450 calories, and then if you want grams, divide that by 4.
Right. So.
Very good. All right, someone else.
So it's about 113 ish.
Yeah, it's just under 120.
Yeah. So it comes out to you're eating just under 1 gram of carbs per pound of lean body weight.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. That's what I recommended in my book. So that works out. I approve.
See,
we're on the same.
We're on the same page, and we didn't even know it.
Yeah. So, what's you as a baker? That probably doesn't work. What's your diet? What do you eat? Do you have good stuff, or is it all very blah and boring?
Well, I mean, you can.
That's what I imagine. I just imagine the same thing every day to get that cut and shredded.
Well,
just.
It depends on how much money you have, but to be honest, I mean, I eat, and it's funny, right before we got on the call, I actually finished my my food prep for the week. And, I prep 3 meals, because I have to take them to work, and I have my first meal and my last meal when I'm at home. My first and last meals are normally eggs and oats. I'm a fan of eating steel cut oats with just salt, and then I put my, I call them dippy eggs over top of my oats. So that's what I have for breakfast and dinner, or what most people would call breakfast and dinner. I call it meal 1 and meal 5. During the day, this week I made ground turkey, asparagus, butternut squash, broccoli. I have oats, and I have ground beef in different combinations for the day. So that's the type of food that I'm eating. So it's ground turkey, ground beef, green vegetables, and either sweet potatoes, oats, or butternut squash.
Do you have any flavor in there? Say that again. Do you have any flavor in there?
Well, my meat I normally flavor with chili powder, garlic powder, onion powder, cumin curry, and some cinnamon. So I put that all in my mix, all in my ground meat, and cook it up. And then I only use salt for the rest of it. I do put a little bit of cinnamon in my squash and in my sweet potatoes, but I'm not a big sauce person to begin with. Like, I could use hot sauce, I could use mustard. I could even use onions and green peppers. I just, for convenience and ease, I keep it very basic. As long as I'm hitting the right number of calories, I'm happy. And then once a week I get a treat meal, which is typically a burger, with an egg on it and sweet potato fries.
No. Any sweet treat, or no, that the sweet
when I'm not on prep, I can, I'll indulge. When we get off the call, I'm actually going to be making chocolate chip cookies because I promised them to a number of people tomorrow. But I actually will, I also use whey protein powder. I use a whey isolate. It's actually, the flavor is peanut butter cereal milk, which is really good. And if I add a tablespoon of cocoa powder to it, and then I usually use cold coffee, mix it up, almost make it like a pudding, and I put it on chocolate rice cakes. That's my treat.
Oh,
and people are like, that's a treat. I'm like, for me it is.
Well, that's why I'm asking, because
when you eat like that for so long, or during this prep period, it readjusts your baseline. So like things that normally didn't feel like a treat do feel like a treat. Like being like, I'm gonna have an extra piece of Ezekiel bread today. Ooh, like people looking at you like you're out of your mind. You're like, oh, this is so good.
Yep. Man, this week I was like, I added an extra ounce of meat per meal this week, so I'm having 5 ounces instead of 4 ounces. So
baller,
that's a big deal to me.
Baller.
So what's the length time frame of, like, how long do you do this?
Each person is different. Depends on where you're starting. There's women that I know that are on prep for 20 weeks, and then, there's people that can do prep as little as 8 weeks. It depends on what you're conditioning, how conditioned you are when you're starting. So, because I was already pretty lean, I didn't need more than an 8-week prep. It depends on your body fat percentage, depends on what category you're competing in, because you have bikini, you have figure, you have, physique. So, each class has a different look that they're, how you're supposed to look.
Yeah, run through that for the guests real quick and give like an example of, I don't know, maybe someone famous that kind of fits that mold, per se.
No pressure. I don't know if everyone knows Dana Lynn Bailey. She actually was Miss Olympia 2013. She was in physique. I'm trying to think of somebody who would fit the category of figure. Well, didn't you say you interviewed someone who was figure? Would everyone know who that is?
Well, Jamie Styles did figure when I think she competed in like 2 or 3 shows. So
okay.
But I mean, so like bikini is like, it looks like you're a hot girl at the beach, but except you're covered in spray tan. It is. You're not supposed to have strongly defined muscles. You're supposed to be, and I hate this word, and I cringe that I'm going to actually use this word. You want to look toned. Yeah.
I don't like the word toned. I hate that word. It's as bad as using the word nice, but that's the best way I can describe it. Now,
and their poses, they're like sticking their ass out a little bit.
Yes.
And like, I don't even understand.
Completely.
Honestly, I don't even understand how the judges judge bikini, because it's like, are you just picking who you'd like to sleep with the most? Like, I seriously don't understand it, because they all look the same to me. Like, when they line up, I'm like, these girls literally look like clones of each other.
Well, I mean, there's subtle nuances. It's the taper of the waist. It is the roundness of the bottom, where you have the calves are defined, but you don't want them to be overly muscular. So there's that fine line. And I know that they've made some changes recently in the rules, because even the bikini women in the NPC, it was whispered that they were taking things to help them shred down. And I mean, when it gets to that level, something needs to change. We're supposed to continue to look like women. We're not supposed to look like men. And when you start to take things, your body changes. So the bikini is a softer look. You're not going to have a defined back. You're going to be thin. But you want to be able to. There's also a larger weight, I believe, on how you present yourself on stage. Like, everyone needs to present themselves well, but they want someone that has that flounce, that flair, doesn't look like, a newborn colt walking in heels kind of thing. So you need to be able to play to the judges.
Okay, so that's bikini. Next level up is figure.
Is figure. You're going to have more muscle tone with figure. You are going to have those defined shoulders. You're going to have a more defined back. Still have that taper in the center, and you're going to have more definition in your quads and your glutes, but still not cuts and shreds. And then their posing, they actually have 4 quarter turns, whereas the bikini is just front and back, but no actual flexing. No, they're considered relaxed poses, the 4 poses that the figure competitors do, and Physique does those when they first come out on stage. And I will tell you, the 4 relaxed poses that you do are the most unrelaxed things that you'll ever do. If you're not in discomfort while you're doing them wrong. So they're supposed to look relaxed, but they're not.
And is next Physique, and that's what you do?
Correct. Physique, you're going to have muscle tone. I hate the word tone. You're going to be have muscle definition. You're going to have cuts. Sometimes you'll see striations, though. My last show, I had one judge say that I was not conditioned enough, and then I had another judge say they weren't looking for glute striations. So how I can't be lean enough, but also too lean and have glute striations made no sense to me. But you will see striations. You'll see the veins in the arms, in the muscles through the abs. You'll see those defined cuts in the muscle. And then you have not only your relaxed poses, but you'll have your other mandatory poses. You have your front double bicep. You'll have your side tricep, side chest, back double bicep, and your abdominal and thigh. And those take lots and lots of practice. You can tell, if you would ever go to a show, whether or not someone's practiced based on how badly they're sweating and shaking on stage, because it's actually a really difficult workout when you're up under those lights and they make you hold those poses for which seemed like hours. My last show, I think they clocked us on stage posing for 9 minutes and 33 seconds, and it was a very long time.
Yeah.
I remember watching some of your stuff live, I think, or a friend was filming it, and I was just like, I just didn't know what to say, because I was like, they're just holding that. And a question I had, because I've been told, or what I've heard, is that past the diet and, like, once you get used to the prepping and that part of it, the posing is, like, the hardest part, because I've heard it, like, hurts, because you're basically holding for however long. So, I mean, is that...
If you don't practice, that's true. I pose after every workout, so I pose every day, even in off season. That way, my body continues to be conditioned, so I can stand on stage and I can hold a pose pretty much as long as you need me to, and not get out of breath and not start sweating. And I will say it's harder than everything else. Being able to present your muscles, because you can go to the gym every day and have great muscle tone and, a great physique, but if you don't know how to show judges your physique, you can still lose placement.
That's crazy. And so so your coach that you got, you basically have like a book or a series of all the poses, and you just go through?
You can Google them. And he showed me those poses back when he helped me with my shows last year. I decided to not continue with him after nationals. We had a difference of opinion as far as what is okay to take and not take, and I'm all natural, and that's how I'll stay. So I decided to train myself, and the poses don't really change. You can change arm placement, the angle of the body, but the poses themselves are the same. I know that OCB actually gives you written guidelines. I think most of the federations have the written guidelines out there, and links to tutorials on what the poses look like.
It's just crazy. This is just like, this seems, I would want to do it to see if I could do it, but I'm already telling myself that I don't think I could do it, just the whole thing.
I think you could. The going to the gym, the eating's harder, is the more difficult part than the gym part, at least for most people. But if you can get both of those down and turn the brain off from the hunger factor, and that's something that happened during this last year. I stopped feeling hungry, at least in my stomach. Like, the only time I knew, hey, it was time to eat, is my brain started to get a little cranky. So I lost that hunger factor. And I think part of that was because I had eliminated sugar. I wasn't even having fruit for the longest time. I haven't eaten an apple in over a year. So it really changes your mental focus. And, if you can do the workouts consistently, and you can, as long as you prep for your food, because that's a lot of people fail because they fail to prepare. If you prepare your food, eat what you prepared, don't buy junk from the store, and you make it all the way through. I think you can do it.
But I'm like you, when I say I'm going to do something, I commit, but I don't keep my goals and plans down. So it's one of those ones that I have in my head, and I'm like, okay, one day I'm going to put it on paper, and then I'm going to have to do it, but I haven't put it on paper yet, so I'm still holding off.
Well, let me know when you do.
Oh, I will be joining your group for sure.
Okay.
Well, so let's tie this into OCR and training, because you said you tried to kind of mix them together and it didn't work, but then you've also said you've got races planned, so you have like an off season from your bodybuilding that you can do OCR. Do you train differently in the gym? Because I guess for bodybuilding it's more focused on muscle groups per se, but OCR is not.
I will say I've been heavy lifting even when I was training for OCR. I had more running in my training when I was just doing OCR. Most competitors, most people going into a bodybuilding competition still have to do cardio. So I could have, if I trained like everybody else did, having that running in my repertoire wouldn't have been a bad thing. But I tend to lean out pretty quickly, so I actually had to not do cardio during my prep because it would have compromised the muscle I built in my legs. I would have pared down a little too much on the bottom, and so I struggled with that. So I wasn't allowed to run while I was prepping for a show, and that was my biggest problem, and why I couldn't personally combine the two. I do still keep fingertip push-ups in my workouts. I still do pull-ups every week. And on the off, when I'm not in straight prep, I go to the basement at Warehouse and do engine sled pushes and tire slams and that type of thing. So I try to keep my hand in even while I'm doing my bodybuilding thing. But it's more a matter of the diet, and the body's depleted when you're in prep. So to go out and run a race, and I don't know the calculation of how many calories you burn during a race, but when you're on a strict eating regimen, you don't get those extra calories that you would need if you're going to go out and do a race.
Right. So you're not eating properly necessarily. Your training might be okay, but fuel-wise, you're a little bit different.
Right. And, I know my go-to fuel whenever I'm racing is honey. I don't use anything else. That's the only thing that I found that doesn't upset my stomach while I race. So, and honey's a big no-no when you're prepping, so, because it's straight sugar. So, but this coming year, I've planned it out where I'm doing Shell Hill's last race in February, and then I'm going to do the marathon in March, take 8 weeks, prep for my show in May, and then swing back into OCR. That's the plan. So I'm only going to compete, in May. I'm going to pare back because I do miss racing. And,
are you just doing one show in May, or are you going to do two in a row?
There's two. I'm doing a show in Virginia on May 4th, and then actually one of the girls on the Prep Squad page is from Canada, and she invited me to come up to Canada to do a show there. So it'll be kind of cool and interesting to go under a different federation in a different country and compete. Because I won't be considered pro there, so it's more for fun. Just to have a different experience. And we actually have girls, as far as Australia. I think we have a girl in South Africa. We have, girls in Europe, and they're all over the place. So, my goal eventually is to go visit everyone. So, right, like each of the countries that are being represented. So yeah, May 4th, May 11th, and then, I'm going to switch gears back into racing.
Cool. Have you seen the documentary Raising the Bar?
I have not.
Oh, you need to see it. It's so good. It's like the best.
Okay.
So I think it's like the best bodybuilding documentary there is, personally. So there's actually 3 of them. There's Raising the Bar 1, 2, and 3. I have them on DVD, which does not help you.
No.
But if you come to a CTG, I'll let you borrow them. Or if I end up going to Shell Hill, which...
Are you going for the last race?
I was, but I think Brenna and I might be going someplace else that weekend. So we will see. I don't know. It's not definite yet, so I don't want to start making announcements about where we're going.
Dude, it's worthwhile to go just for the bacon.
Yeah.
All you can eat all day long. I'm just saying.
That's pretty, but
anyway, so in the documentary, I did the same thing when I was prepping for shows. I did it all myself. Basically, did all the research online, read a ton of books, watched a bunch of YouTube videos, watched a bunch of documentaries, and basically started mimicking what other people were doing. And the first, when I got into my first show, I was trying to make things work without it just going to this is what you need to eat, period. I was trying to find other things that had similar macros and kind of try to squeeze them in. And I watched that documentary, and the main character on it, who's, I can't remember if he's pro or I don't think he's pro. I think he was going for his pro card. I can't remember. Either way, he's like there's foods that work and there's foods that don't work. And he's like, here are the foods that work, like egg whites, chicken breast, fish. And and he literally named 6 or 8 foods, and he's like, that's it. He's like, those are the 2 categories. There's foods that work, foods that don't work. He's like, don't pick the foods that don't work. And I was like, all right. And that's what I needed to hear, and it flipped a switch. And the next time I ended up preparing for a show, that's what I did. I basically just stuck with essentially the quote unquote the foods that work. And it was also psychologically easier because you're like, all right, well, these foods are now, I simply just don't eat those. I just don't consider them food anymore. And this is what I consider food, so that's what I'm eating. Yep. And it's kind of the way it is. Now, bodybuilding, that type of sport is, it's completely life-consuming, right? There is not an hour of your day that goes by that's you're not even thinking about some sort of competing or your diet or your training or something like that.
Correct. It's a commitment.
Yeah, and I don't think people, if you haven't done it, I don't think people really realize how life-consuming it can be.
Yeah, because you're thinking, beyond the, getting up at, I get up at 2:45 every day, get to the gym by 4 a.m. I do that in part. What?
I'm going to bed then.
Well, I do that in part because I do some personal training on the side. So I have clients in the morning, and then I have to go to my regular job, and then I have clients after work. And if I'm not in bed by 8 o'clock, I'm not even getting 7 hours of sleep. when that alarm goes off again at 2:45. So I do get a little bit more sleep sometimes on the weekend if I'm not traveling, and driving to places like Georgia in a weekend. So yeah, I mean you have to be extremely regimented, and not just with your workout schedule, but the food that you're eating and when you're eating it and how often you're eating it. And then of course you have your day-to-day. If you work in a corporate setting, which I do, there's temptation around every corner. Oh, have this donut. Oh, let's, it's bagel day. Let's all order out. Why don't you want to drink? So you're combating all of those things pretty much on a daily basis because everyone else is normal and you're not.
I was going to ask if you don't mind, what do you do? Where do you work, or like what type of work do you do?
I work at a company called S2E39 Investments in Oaks, Pennsylvania. So long story short, I am policing internal users and the accesses that they have. So it's a desk job.
Is that a 9 to 5 for you?
It's 8 to 4. When I'm in the office, I do get to work from home 2 days a week, so I push it and work 7 to 3. That way I have more of my day left.
The rest of your life.
Right. And I normally I work through lunch. I don't need an hour lunch in the middle of the day like some people do because I'm not eating necessarily at that time anyway. I eat at 3:30. I get up and have my first meal at 3:30. My second meal is between 7 and 8, then 11 to, how many am I up to? And then 6 or 7. So I'm not eating necessarily at a prescribed lunchtime anyway. So I just eat at my desk, get my work done, and
I found that part of that made me more efficient, right? Because like you're not getting up and getting in your car, driving to someplace to eat, waiting in line, waiting for food. Like you just eat your food
Correct.
at your desk,
and you save money.
You do. Yeah, people are always like, "Oh, it's so expensive to eat healthy." It's like, well, not if you prep it ahead of time. If you prep it ahead of time, it's way cheaper than going out to lunch every day. So
I mean, I just spent an hour and a half before we got on this call. I spent an hour and a half, and I have 6 days of meals done. So it's people are. I mean, I will like when I come home from work, I'll make my eggs and my oats, but the oats I make in bulk at the beginning of the week, so it's really just cooking up the eggs, which takes 5 minutes. So I'm saving a lot of time every day.
It's funny that you said that about the drinking and the temptation stuff. I think I've been peer pressured to drink more as an adult than I was ever growing up, like high school and college. And like now that I'm an adult, people are like, just have one beer. Just drink it. I don't see what the big deal is. And it's like, why don't you leave me alone?
Right. No, don't get me wrong. I don't mind a bourbon here and there if I'm not on prep, but it's not one of those excessive overindulgent things. So I'm not. I'll abstain all during prep. Like I was on prep from the beginning of January through this last show, so it was almost 11 months.
Oof. Holy crap!
Yeah. So I mean, I had some space in between the shows where I increased my calories a little bit, but it was still prep food. Even now, I'm still mainly on my prep food diet. Like on the weekends, I'll indulge and have a few more calories than I normally would, but Monday through Friday, it's just easier with work and clients to stay in that prep mode.
So let's say you had enough of physique bodybuilding. You're like, all right, I'm going to be done with that. I'm going to switch over to OCR and commit to OCR full time. What lessons would you take from the physique competitive world and apply to OCR?
I think, overall, the level of commitment. If you say you're going to do something, you stick with it. Sticking with your training. Work on your weaknesses. We all have them. They'll tell you. And the good thing about the shows, after the show, you can contact the judges and they'll tell you why you placed where you placed and the things that you need to work on. So, you don't normally get that in OCR. Well, you have to go work on this, or this. And you may know, you may not know. But understanding what your weaknesses are and working on those to strengthen them and then bring a better package to the table or to the race line. And then, proper fueling of the body, it all goes hand in hand. I mean, you're going to fuel more. You want to make sure you're putting the right things in your body, especially right before a race, because it can make a big difference. So, I mean, just signing up, committing, and, showing up and not quitting.
Yeah, strongly concur with all that. After I left bodybuilding type stuff, my overall diet is definitely healthier. Like compared to before, because like it readjusted that baseline where now the stuff I realize is unhealthy. I definitely eat a lot crappier than I did, when I was competing. But
right.
It's readjusted it, and I definitely eat healthier now. And then the other thing was that like you said, with the commitment. Before I did natural bodybuilding, I did marathon running. And marathon running, you get up in the morning, you run your miles, and that's pretty much it for the day, right? Like, you generally eat whatever you want. You're like, I'm going to go run far tomorrow, so I'm going to burn it off. It's not a big deal. And that's really it. And then you switch, like I switched to bodybuilding. It's, like we were talking about earlier, it is life-consuming, right? Like, food, the sleep, the training, like, everything is revolving around this. And when I found OCR, I took that same commitment level and just kind of refocused it, towards OCR, and it's been working out pretty well for me. So, yeah.
Good. Just like I need to give it a try. Sounds like it'd be positive for me.
I mean, it's definitely a life-changing event, and whether you're doing it to address a fear, whether you're doing it as a bucket list item, whether it's something that you fall in love with and you want to pursue it further. Just always remember, it's about the experience, the journey, not necessarily the destination. You're on stage maybe 3 minutes. So if you're only doing it to be on stage for 3 minutes, you're doing it for the wrong reason. So make sure you take in the experiences that you have along the way, the people that you meet when you're there. I've met so many strong women, and, growing up and as a teenager in my early 20s, I wasn't friends with a lot of women. For one reason or another, I either felt threatened or didn't think they liked me or whatever the case might be. And I realized that, hey, maybe I need to open up and smile and engage in conversation. And I have grown as a person through this sport and learning to talk to people and communicate and realize that, I have a story to share, and I can be positive for other people who maybe they're scared out of their mind. You start talking to them and you realize that they have fears, and you can, maybe you've been down that road and you can share with them and put them at ease. And, it's been very rewarding in that sense. Regardless of the medals or the trophies or whatever, the friendships that I've created, the women that I've connected with, it's just, you can't put a price tag on it. It's been phenomenal.
And that's awesome. That's why I like what Evan and I do here, to bring on different guests for learning things. And then in this sense, I mean, it's eye-opening for women that might have insecurities, like you said, or not have any idea about it. So it's kind of, you're trying to create kind of like a community within it that might not have existed before. Like you said, your group has grown so much, and it might have been a sport that wasn't known for like camaraderie and community, because you're basically judging yourself against other females, which is in our day, that's really what everybody does, and it's so negative. Right. And I like and love that you're putting a positive spin on it for everybody. So I'm glad we have you to share that, and others listening will hear it, because I mean, I like the community feel of OCR. So I think you might have felt that, and you're taking it there to bodybuilding, which is pretty awesome.
So you asked what I would bring from bodybuilding to OCR, but I took what I've learned in OCR and brought it to bodybuilding.
That's awesome.
Nice.
So,
and I do have to ask, so this kind of real quick on the, like, touching on people's fears. Obviously it helped you or cured your fear of getting in front of people. The whole, you said you're on stage 3 minutes, but like, did you have a hard time with taking such criticism? Because again, just having someone be like, you're not this enough, you're not big enough, or your butt's not big enough. I mean, like,
well, they don't tell you while you're standing on stage. So, you're up there and they're,
it's not like
Evan, I don't know.
It's not like a sorority lineup where they line you up and criticize you. They just take notes and then you talk to them after. Yeah.
Right.
Whatever. Okay.
Yeah. But they do. It's a quiet criticism. And you take what they say to you. And like with this last show, I was, completely confused with this last show because the feedback I got from the 7 or 8 judges, none of it matched. So, we don't like to think that there's politics involved, but there's always some level involved, and their inconsistencies gave me pause. And I had a slightly sour taste in my mouth, but I knew that I had brought the best package that I had to stage, and I was happy with what I brought. So while you want to take their criticisms, you have to understand that those are 7 people.
Right.
They don't live with you. They don't work with you. They're not you. And at the end of the day, if you're happy with what you have, that's what counts. You can listen to them and, and there are certain bona fide things that, if they say that you need to work on, but don't take it personally.
Right.
And I know that's hard because they're talking about you, but know that they're talking about, okay, these are a set of standards that we're comparing to. So they're just trying to align you with those standards.
Makes sense. So think of it that way rather than a personal attack.
Right. Rather than saying, oh, your butt's fat. No, they're saying that your derriere isn't in line with the standard. Exactly.
Gotcha.
So before we start wrapping it up, I talked about some of the positive effects of readjusting your baseline from this sport, but I haven't really talked about some of the negative effects, right? So you see yourself in a certain physical condition where you're super lean, right, which is not maintainable for the rest of your life. It's not maintainable year-round to be stage ready that lean.
Right.
So I think I don't know what the percentage is, but I know some people come away from the sport, developing basically like body dysmorphia disorder or, eating disorders as a result of it. So what would you say to someone who maybe is transitioning out of the sport, or I don't know if you had this experience within your help group, but is going through that type
there's a lot of women on the page that are like, oh my gosh, I'm 5 pounds up. Oh my gosh, I'm 10 pounds up. Oh my gosh, I'm 15 pounds up, and number one, I would keep the pictures of your befores. I took pictures every morning from the time that I started prep all the way to the stage. Okay. And even after your show, even after you've gained that 5-10 pounds or whatever you've gained, 9 times out of 10, you still look 100 times more amazing than when you started your prep. So you got to remember where you come from. Number one. Number two, remember how you felt when you're, walking around on 12 to 1,500 calories. You don't want to feel that way. And I've recommended to the girls to have prep clothes and non-prep clothes, because the first thing that happens is they're trying to wear the same clothes that they wore 2 weeks before a show. And then they wonder why they can't button them up. So you feel huge. So, I personally have, prep and non-prep jeans, and I switch them out, and I don't even think about wearing those clothes that I wore within 4 weeks of a show. Now, I will say that, even now when I'm eating, if I'm eating something not prep approved, that thought goes through my head of what is this going to do to me? You have that expanded notion, I'm eating a cookie, so I'm going to gain 5 pounds. Even though I know logically that's not going to happen, it is very real. The thought process that you go through. I don't have, crazy words of wisdom other than, continue to work out, continue to, eat at least 80% healthy, if you're not doing another show, and just be realistic.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I think there's some great tips in there. So,
and because it sounded realistic. It wasn't like just a science to it. It sounded like that would kind of be things that a novice or someone new could understand and relate to, I guess.
Right. Right. I mean, you can sit and, calculate your macros out, and they do talk about reverse dieting, which is simply taking your prep and flipping it backwards, if you will. So you're slowly increasing your calories. So, obviously you don't want to do a show and then, if you're sitting at 1,500 calories, you don't want to bounce your calories up to 2,500 calories. And you want to make sure, even as you're increasing your calories, you keep your percentages on point. So you don't want, you don't want to spike your carbs from the 112 grams we talked about to, 160 grams, because your body's it's not going to react well. So, if you want to talk about the technical numbers and that type of thing, you want to keep your percentages close to what they were on prep. Just increase the total number of calories.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Good advice. All right, should we start wrapping it up, Brenna?
I would say I got all my questions, yeah. So, Heather, do you have any, shout-outs you want to give to friends, sponsors, coaches, or mention what's the Facebook group that people can join?
The Facebook group, if any ladies out there are thinking about competing, have questions, have already competed, want a place where they can vent, feel that if their loved ones don't quite understand what they want to get into, it's simply Prep Squad. There's 3 questions you answer to get on the page. Nothing complicated. We just want to make sure that you're actually interested in being on the page. It's full of positivity, and it is a natural page. Not saying that if you choose to take enhancements or anything, you're not welcome. You are. We just ask that you don't talk about it.
Awesome.
So, but yeah, and my workout partner Liz, she's also my chiropractor. Keeps me in line. Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. She keeps she puts my shoulder back almost every day. So
very nice.
Yeah.
Goodness. Well, Evan, what about you? Who you got today?
I just got a lot of articles coming out. Make sure you're checking Mud Run Guide and Strength and Speed. Also, the Strength and Speed development team applications are going to open soon, or they may have opened already by the time this podcast is released. So you can head over there and apply if you're interested in being pulled into a private Facebook group with a bunch of the Strength and Speed athletes, where we have physical therapists in there, nutritionists, personal trainers, a bunch of athletes, some specializing in short course, some specializing in long course, kind of everything in between. Some a little more weight training focused, like Strength and Speed was kind of founded on, and some a little more, a lot of them, the majority of the group's very heavily OCR focused. But if you'd like to apply to that, basically it lets you in for free, and then you get some free Strength and Speed merchandise. And then as I get benefits from sponsors and partners that I can pass along to you, I pass them along to people within the group. So head over there and apply if you're interested. Brenna.
So mine is more of a product kind of shout out. I have been seeing it. I don't know why it just all of a sudden popped up, but I love sunglasses, and I always get the real cheap, free Killcliff, or I have one from every race series that I just picked up, and they're plastic and colored, but I wear them on build and get them scratched up all the time. So I've been seeing the brand Gooder that I think Amelia Boone is a sponsor or ambassador for, and I think they were featured maybe in a review Mud Run Guide, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. But Brett
Correct.
Stewart had them at OCRWC in London, and I was like, I got to get some. So I finally did. I got 2 pairs of these awesome glasses, and I want to say they were inexpensive. They have really cool packaging and brand model and everything to them. They fit really cool, and then I'm going to test them out this weekend when I race. I'm going to wear them and see. They're supposed to be known for you can shake your head and bounce around and they don't come off. So everybody knows that I shake my head and bounce around a lot. So I'm really excited to put these to test. So if you've been looking for some sunglasses, I recommend them already, and I haven't even extremely worn them. So check out Gooder. They're really just fun, cool glasses, and they're not super expensive, but they're good quality.
I know they've got some fun names and some pretty fun colors. What names or colors did you get?
Oh man, I got Phoenix at the Bloody Mary bar or something that.
Red ones, I'm assuming.
Go figure. They're red rim with red, shiny, fiery orange lenses. And then I got this other pair. I didn't realize when I ordered them that they're actually for someone with a bigger head. Oops, I don't think I have a big head. So they're a little bit big, but they're going to be perfect for my race build glasses. They're just wider frame, but they're black with a yellow lens. And they've got all colors and shades. So I'm going to order more, and I think the name gets it. And then they come with this little card that's a care card, and it tells you a good way to care for them and a better way and a bad way. And it just they're snarky and make you laugh. So it's pretty cool. So check it out.
Cool. We doing one thing people don't know about you?
Yeah, I'm
you
excited.
Still doing that? Heather,
Yeah.
you're up.
Well, I've been working out, I said, since I was 18, and bodybuilding, OCR, all that good stuff. But I will tell you that in high school, I was really lazy, and I almost failed gym class my freshman year in high school.
That's pretty impressive because it's kind of hard to fail gym class, isn't it?
Well, I refused to change my clothes, and I sat on the sideline, so
Yeah,
You were that girl.
That'll do it.
I was.
Girl.
I didn't want to mess up my hair. That was the days when, the bangs were like 5 inches off your head, and, you run around and it falls down.
All right, y'all. So if you've seen Heather crawling in the mud, OCR, this is something you didn't know. She was that girl that couldn't mess up her hair. That's awesome. Oh, Evan, what you got?
All right, before Heather freaks out and hangs up on me, you have to let me finish the story.
Okay.
I'm sitting in front of my computer in my office, and I actually have a framed picture of Heather at my desk. So I wrote an article for Endurance News, Volume 96, in 2015, and they used a picture from the Battlegrounds 2015 race. So it's 4 pages, or it's 3 pages of the article, which is framed, and one of the pictures is the start line. So you were actually staring at me as I'm recording this. And I didn't even realize it until yesterday when I did another recording. But yeah, you're on the start line, running forward. So
That's funny.
Volume 96, Endurance News, Off Hammer Nutrition. I'll post a link later. But yeah,
Okay.
I have a framed picture of Heather. No big deal.
Yeah, so that's something we didn't know. Evan's kind of a creeper. All right, all you podcast guests, check out Evan. You might have some framed photos of you.
I see Jason Rulo there, Chris Balvin, Marc McGarry, some familiar faces there.
Well, it's my turn. So it goes perfect with this episode. Heather talked about, her why she started the bodybuilding was from a fear of getting in front of people. You get asked all the time, or on these applications for shows and different things, what's your biggest fear? And I draw a blank. I'm usually I don't have a fear. I'm not afraid of the typical heights and speed and spiders or snakes or anything like that. And I finally, in the past, couple years, figured out what it is. So my biggest and only fear is karaoke. And it sounds ridiculous, but there's a reason. So I've tried to figure out, why. But, I get, anxiety, and I can go to karaoke, but if there's a thought that I'm going to be, asked to do it or try to, push up on stage or anything like that, I'll panic. And we were in Little Rock for CTG, and it was Dave Main Prize and Nathan Palmer. We went to this little, hole-in-the-wall, honky-tonk bar, and there's no one there, and Dave gets up and does karaoke. I go to the bathroom and come back, and they're like, yeah, we put your name on the list. And I was like, fuck this, I'm paying the tab, and we're going, because I drove and I paid. So I was like, we're out. And I think they were joking. I didn't want to stick around and find out, though. And then at work the other night, my bar just started doing karaoke on Tuesday nights, and I went in there with, a panic attack of, someone's going to ask me to do karaoke. And I don't know why, because I love talking in front of people. I don't mind microphones. I sing everywhere, but I won't sing on a microphone for karaoke. So there you have it. And I'll fight you. I won't do it. Even.
All right. Well, we're going to get going because Heather's got to get up in 4 hours to go work out or something. So thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
It's great. And then we'll be seeing you at some OCRs later this year, hopefully.
Yeah.
Maybe
Dallas.
CDG Dallas. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll bring the Raising the Bar DVD if you haven't
Sounds
seen
great.
it by then. All right.
Awesome.
Talk to you later.
Have a great day, y'all.
Bye.
Day.